Thank you, Professor Lorenzo. I think we'll come back again also for other policy instruments in due course. I think thank you for that very important insights. I'd like to come to Mr. Hitendra Dev Sakya. In energy, I think Mr. Lacamera also mentioned in his keynote speech that he congratulated Nepal for NDC 3.0, which was unveiled just 2 days back. And if you look at that NDC 3.0, you see that Nepal's emission comes from energy a lot. Of course, we have our land use sector is net sink, which helps to drive the emission down. But when I looked at the NDC 3.0, I saw that our emission, including land use change, is around 38 million ton of CO2 equivalent, out of which 25 million comes from energy. And if you really look at the projection for 2035, which was in NDC 3.0, I saw that energy sector's emission in 2035 will be around 37.9 million ton of CO2 emission out of 62 million. And now, if you look at our projection for 2035 in NDC, energy sector is the one which is going to rapidly increase if we don't do anything. Of course, we plan to do. We have a conditional and unconditional target. Now, there also electric vehicle is very important. Electric vehicle, electric cooking, and also electrification in the industrial sector, and also how to handle our other energy mix, bioenergy, biomass, mini-grid, microgrid, microhydro, biogas, all these energy mix are very important. And talking about electric vehicles, International Energy Agency released a new report in a Global Outlook of EV 2025 just this week. And according to it, 1 in the 4 vehicles sold last year was electric globally. And Nepal is even fast forward, as you know. In Nepal, more than 75% of the new vehicles sale, 4-wheeler segment is electric already. So we are much farther in the curves. Now, my question to Hitendra ji is that in that clean energy drive, hydropower development is a backbone for Nepal. But also energy mix is very, very important. And we have a lot of successes in the past, both on hydropower development and also renewable energy. So where our key bottlenecks lies for moving to the clean energy future, and how we can move forward.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Sobakar. Good morning and namaste, all distinguished guests and fellow panelists here. I'm coming from a utility background. My organization is responsible for producing, transmitting, transporting, and distributing electricity to about 91% of the households of Nepal, having access to about 95% geographically. There are 6,743 wards, or small units of governance, and out of them, only 300 wards are now out of access. So we have the access to electricity. Now, how can we contribute towards greening already the green energy? I have proposed, and we are working towards that with a fellow institution, Alternative Energy Promotion Center. And this would, at first, sound maybe strange coming from the mouth of a utility chief that we are proposing to increase the use of biomass, but efficient biomass in the rural households. What I'm trying to drive at is, 2024 Energy Survey has showed that 80% of our energy use is biomass, and only about 4% is from electricity. But interesting is that in household cooking, about more than 50% is firewood, and more than 44% is LPG, liquid is petrol gas. So this is where, I thought we can make a different proposition. And what we are trying to do is use, there's a, clear direction towards electric cooking, but the electric cooking, it occurs in the morning and evening for about 1 hour in an average. Individually, it may be 2 hours or 3 hours, but in an average, it's 1 hour peak in the morning and 1 hour peak in the evening, and that causes demand in the electric infrastructure. I have to build generation capacity, build transmission capacity, and build distribution capacity to that tune. Double of it, but to be used only 2 hours a day. So instead of, and that is caused by, if it is caused by electric cooking, then I should look for alternative. So that's where I was brought into this proposition, where we provide electricity to all these 95% access, where we have access to pellet and briquette making machines. So this pellets and briquettes, also when burning, they can use some fan electricity, very minimal. So that way, it converts the firewood, traditional firewood, into very efficient pellets. And out of 6,743 wards, we have more than 4,000 which are rural. And so this is the first step where we can really change, bring a change. And the next thing is the electric transport that you have mentioned. Yes, we are right now leading in terms of percentage of new vehicles that are electric, but we should also keep in mind that the roads that are already plying in the road will not come out of the road for some time to come, and almost 100% of the cargo trucks and large buses are still petrol. So the possibility of converting them into electric is something that we are trying to explore. But there are regulatory obstacles, as already Dr. Lorange mentioned. We have been trying to do this since 20 years. And we haven't found a procedure or regulation to allow conversion of electric vehicles. Keeping that note aside, what we are trying to do in NEA is promoting electric vehicles by adopting the electric vehicles first, walk the talk, as you say. So we have a lot of electric vehicles in our organization, but that just is a very small part of the whole transport scenario. So what we do is install charging stations all over the country. So we have about 62. In the beginning, we had them, big charging stations. And now we are promoting the private charging stations. There are more than 700 charging stations. We provide transformer and high voltage, medium voltage, 11 kV link up to the charging station, and provide subsidized cheap electricity to those charging stations. That's the way we promote electric transport. There's still a lot of things to do in the electric transport. These vehicles that we have mentioned are all electric luxury comfort vehicles. They provide good numbers, but in terms of carbon emission, they don't contribute much because they ply so many kilometers in the road per day. So it would only change when the public vehicles and the cargo vehicles are converted to electric. And the economics is still not so favorable when we buy new vehicles there. So for Nepal, country like Nepal, where we don't have any manufacturing base, it makes sense to allow conversions and remove all those regulatory hurdles, and plead from this platform again to all those regulators and lawmakers that please make it possible so that we can convert those vehicles into electric or hybrid. So that will bring the emissions down quickly. And the third thing that was mentioned and that we are taken into priority is pump storage projects. That again, of course, I think is quite obvious to all that with the proliferation of solar power, you need energy storage. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Factories won't stop after sunset. They won't stop working. They need power. Households need power in the evening. So you need battery storage or so pump storage. Nepal has a mountainous background. We are so naturally endowed with high mountains that we can have very lucrative pump storage projects. At the top and bottom, we can make some ponds. And so NEA, Nepal Electricity, has already taken a step to us that we have identified 164 pump storage projects totaling about 60,000 megawatt, and out of which 52 projects were taken out for further study and ranked. Already we have taken 3 licenses, Kulikhan Cisneri 100 megawatt, 400 megawatt hour, Hulingtar pump station 500 megawatt, 2000 megawatt hour, and Sharpuda pump station 32 megawatt, 1700 megawatt hour. So these projects are being studied in detail, and we are trying to fast track it. And again, in pump storage, there is some regulatory hurdle again. Pump storage projects are required to take license, whereas we are not using this natural resource. We are charging and recharging, charging and discharging. So there should not be any royalties, fees for this, but they are treated as equal with the other projects, and that is hindering pump storage project. So if that could be removed, we can push pump storage project. And pump storage project, it helps the solar, and it also helps our energy balance in the supply side, and supports the ROR, proliferation. The energy mix we have is 40 to 45% ROR, run-of-river projects. So that doesn't have any storage. And 30%, about 30% is pumped, peaking run-of-river projects. So that can be peaked or stored only during winter season. Wet season is all 24 hours, same capacity, and only 20-25% reservoir projects. That's the energy mix. So when we have so much of a run-of-river project, it creates problem to us. We have surplus during the wet season, and it's not constant surplus again that we can sell in India. It's like it's spill energy type of, for 18 hours we have spill, and then 6 hours we can't. We need to have them. So to balance that and to make it flat and make that energy the same electricity, but we want to make it good quality and sell it to India. So for that also we need pump storage project. So pump storage projects help it flatten the supply. And finally, one point I just want to mention here is the micro hydros that we built when our network was not so wide-reaching in Nepal. We built micro hydros in all those rural households, more than 2,000 micros, and more than 2,000 groups of heroes in those local villages. So now they have been set aside because our network has reached there. So that's a tragedy for local tragedy story. So what we are trying to do is interconnect those micro hydros to our grid network, make it possible, improve some of the infrastructures that might be required to make them connected to the grid. That will enable the local economy, local sustainability, and also help our grid as a local resilience from nature or other disturbances. So, and the final is, in the transmission lines are causing, facing a lot of local resistance, because everybody says not in my backyard. They want the transmission line, but not in my backyard. So how do we promote that? So what we are proposing is that right on the right of way, say, you can install solar panels. We will go and take it at your doorstep at the highest price that is possible. And we'll also facilitate the banking, we'll also facilitate all other mechanisms, and your land under the right of way, which would normally be unused, would now be used for solar. So we are now getting the win-win situation. So these are a few steps that we are adopting to green the already green energy. We are 100% green. Of course, we import about 20% energy in the winter, which is coal from India. Indian energy is a little bit dirty, so to say. But we are again exporting the same amount, which is 100% green. So altogether, we can claim that we are net zero. And from next year, we'll be surplus, so we'll be net negative. Thank you.
Thank you, Hitendraji. Thank you for also touching upon some of the major area where clean energy development Nepal is thinking of. Of course, the hydropower remains a very backbone, but also things like micro hydro, things like briquettes, pellets, a number of other things are very important. Also, I do note that Nepal's electricity development plan 2081, which was released sometimes back, aspires to have a 28,500 megawatt, reaching per capita electricity consumption as a 1,500, which we have 400 plus at the moment. So I think the electricity remains a backbone, but you also mentioned that there are some sectors which are we call it hard to abate sectors. For example, trucking. How to make it electric is very tough. How to make some of the industries to electrify is some of the hard to abate sectors. I'm very happy to hear that some of the drives along that line also. We'll take some more question in the next round. I think at some point I want to come to the question of the financing, which is very important to really power the clean energy future. Before that, I would like to invite Professor Achyut Wagle to put his perspective. Professor Wagle, as I said earlier, energy is not only about energy access, energy is not only about climate change or air pollution, energy is also for economic growth. So now, you being an economist, and I know that you have been the past advisor to the Prime Minister and also the Nepal's central bank governor also. How is your take on energy playing a central role in Nepal's economic development? Because energy security, as you all of perhaps agree with me, drains a significant amount of our foreign currency and also our trade deficit, balance of payment. There's a lot of implications, and clean energy future really help us with a number of other things. So how do you see energy as a backbone for Nepal's economic development, and in what way we should move ahead, also thinking about economic development and economics?
Thank you, Professor Dakal. I think it is already very axiomatic that clean energy is the future, and energy is sine qua non for any kind of development. I think we know that, and also for last 10 years, our scientific community has given enough data and what we need to do in terms of the climate change. Nepal now has got the very optimistic saga to talk about the clean energy. It is because Nepal opened electricity development for the private sector. It welcomed the private sector investment that many countries are now discussing. We should encourage private sector development to promote green energy production and use. We have at least set some examples of that. But I think 2 or 3 things here. First of all, the electricity consumption in Nepal, which is now said to be about 400 kilowatt hour, is far less than the average electricity consumption for average level of modest level of quality of life. Even for the household consumption, we probably need to quadruple it to provide a good quality living. I see Dr. Khatioda in front of me. His study about 8 years ago on estimated required investment to meet the sustainable development goals and Paris Climate Agreement was about $18 billion per year. But if you now calculate that, I estimate it should be at least $25 billion by 2030 if we want to meet at least a minimum of the energy needs. The key question is where the investment is going to come from. We may have a long wish list. We know what to do. That is one key question, and then we need to find out the avenues of investment. When we talk about only the public investment, it is not going to happen. Second, we cannot isolate Nepal in any case when you look at the climate-friendly green investment. We have seen the non-fulfillment of the commitments made in right from the COP21 to COP29. There are only the promises from the developed countries who are considered responsible for it. And we are, in Nepal, we are not getting enough investment. Hitanji very rightly talked about the so many projects, dreams. But if the story that by 2050, all the snow from the mountain will disappear, what will happen to the discharge of water in the rivers that we are banking so much, be that the pump storage, run of the river, reservoir based or not. So the risk assessment side, particularly in the situation like ours, is very limited. What actually happens, it is unpredictable. And if that really happens, unfortunately, I think we are on the very, very risky side of the investment. And if you look at the financial security of the investors through insurance and reinsurance packages, I think we need to reinvent the entire mechanism of investment in the green energy. So if you look at our very dire need of systematic urbanization, industrialization, which is very limited. Like our manufacturing sector now only contributes to 4% of it. You talked about the reducing trade deficit. We have got only two alternatives. Either we have to be able to produce the goods that at least substitutes the imports, if not able to export, and another is exporting energy itself, which has started in a symbolic way. But why I am mentioning about these four things: the quality of life, possibly green infrastructure, urbanization, and industrialization, our energy need ourselves, the demand for energy is going to be exponentially high compared to what we are computing at the back of envelope at present. So what I'm saying is that energy need within the country is very huge. Having said that, I don't want to preclude the possibility of exporting electricity and somehow offsetting the pressure on our imports, on our import bills. But we also, in a very sensitive geopolitical locations, to export energy to one neighbor, the investment of other neighbor is probably not accepted. It is not explicitly said, but that kind of heat we are feeling when it talks about the energy trade within the region. Yes, we have already seen that the global governance on climate change is at least, if not collapsed, at least taken a back seat with the rise of the climate skeptic superpowers and withdrawing from the international arrangements. So even in the regional level, we are in a different state of geopolitics, being between two large, powerful neighbors and their competition for regional influence. Beyond economics, I would say, we also need to manage that, which is very tricky but extremely critical. Finally, in this round, what I would like to emphasize is we probably need to come out of some of the stories we are told for long, like we can invest in clean energy by selling carbon. I think that is, for me, I've said that in many forums that the carbon trading, the carbon footprint calculation formula is not made by a country like ours. The pricing is not set by us. Nobody can say what is the appropriate, reasonable pricing of per ton of carbon to be sold. The carbon market that was discussed in many of the COPs, including COP29, that is not there credibly. And the worst thing of all is the very idea of trading carbon is very indirectly allowing the developed countries to continue pollute. You produce as much as you want for your people, for your economy. You emit carbon, but we'll buy it. So this mechanism is not going to work, and unless there is a behavior change of the government in the developed countries, unless they are not willing, how would I say that? If they are not willing to change their consumption pattern in vehicles, in air conditioners, in flying. We said we have got heavy trucks and buses. But what about the aeroplanes? When do we think we will be able to replace fossil fuel to fly aeroplanes? And there are already 1 million aeroplanes ordered to be delivered by 2040, and they will be flying in our skies for at least 2060, and then they are not going to be replaced anyway. They are not going to be flying by the clean energy. The fossil fuel, same applies with the huge ships. So I think the small tokenism and small scale efforts are not going to drastically differ the scenario towards the positive outcome. If all the snow is going to disappear from our Himalayas, probably Nepal's contribution to that bad fate is very little. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Wagle. Thank you for making several points very clear. I think we have to be very careful on how we do our own clean energy development aspirations, because there are multiple angles through which this has to be played. Where the economics remains very, very important. Especially, you also touched upon in the beginning role for the private sector, and I think at some point I'd like to also come back to that question, maybe the role of the private sector. We have a lot of colleagues here in the room from IPPs, and also a lot of drive in Nepal to really push forward the private sector in the renewable energy business. So maybe that also important angle maybe we can pick at some point. Let me invite to Dr. Aditi Mukherjee. Dr. Aditi Mukherjee, Nepal is not very new to you. I know that you have lived in Nepal in the past, although you are now a CGIAR in Nairobi. And also, I'm quite aware of the fact that you work a lot about agriculture sector and the energy, and the cross interconnections between how energy and other SDGs are linked, and also for the fact that in order for the clean energy revolution, communities should be in the center, and the benefit sharing for any clean energy issue is very, very important. So I'm hoping that you'll put your strong perspective in some of these issues.
Thank you, Dr. Dhakal, and thank you to the organizers for having me in this meeting. I represent an organization called the CGIAR. CGIAR, for those of you who don't know, is the world's largest publicly funded research and innovation organization working in the field of agriculture. We are present in over 80 countries, and we work on the entire agricultural value chain. Within the CG, I manage the climate portfolio. So obviously, a lot of my interventions are around agri-food systems and the need for energy transition in the agri-food system. Our keynote speaker did mention the agri-food system at the beginning, but we did not hear a lot after that. So let me first begin by saying that while we pay a lot of attention to renewable energy in transport, in industry, in domestic, and obviously in energy, those are very important, but it's important to remember that the agri-food system emits 1/3 of the global greenhouse gas emissions, of which a lot of it is non-CO2, a lot of it is methane and nitrous oxide, etc. But the fastest growing part of it, according to IPCC, and I was an IPCC author in the last cycle, according to the IPCC, the fastest growing part of the emission in the agri-food sector actually comes from the use of energy in food production. That could be in the pre-production stage, or it could be during production. For example, irrigation in our region is a big consumer of electricity, but also electricity is needed in the post-consumption. So agri-food system remains very important. As Dr. Dhakal also mentioned, I have worked here in EC mode. I used to manage the water and air theme in EC mode a few years ago. And then some of the work I have done as a part of International Water Management Institute, which is also a CG body. So I would try to make 3 or 4 points and use concrete examples from Nepal to demonstrate them. So having laid out the importance of agri-food sector and how energy use in agri-food sector is increasing, and yesterday we had heard the need for bringing back youth into agri-food sector, back into agriculture. One of the sessions was very much about how do we encourage youth. And unless agriculture becomes profitable, youth will not come back. And there is no agriculture out there which has been profitable without, say, irrigation or use of water. So basically energy use in agriculture remains important. So the 3 points I want to make is the absolute centrality of means of implementation. The language that we use in COPs and others, the means of implementation has 3 components. Finance, we heard some things about finance. The other is around technology and technology transfer and capacity building. So some of the work that we have been doing at EC Mode as well as the CGIAR centers around irrigation pumps, say in the Tarai. Tarai is the food basket of Nepal, right? And there are 100,000 irrigation pumps, which most of them are using diesel, though increasingly there's much more electrification, as Dr. Sakya rightly mentioned. And we have been closely working with AEPC, and the ED of AEPC is here. And as some 5,000 solar pumps were installed in Tarai, and we did a number of studies which are all published in journals. They show that farmers who had access to solar irrigation pumps actually grew a more diversified body of crop, they had more income and all of that. But then 2 things happened. One is the grid got extended, very much like the microgrid example, which meant that these standalone solar pumps are not so much used anymore. So their technology became a constraint. Can those solar pumps be connected back to the grid so that farmers, when they are not using their pumps, can sell electricity back to the grid and get decent income? So that's kind of a technology issue. The other issue we found was around capacity. So there are, I mean, every nook and cranny of rural Nepal, or for that matter India and Bangladesh, you would find hundreds of diesel pump repair agents. But you will not find anybody who are capable of repairing these solar panels. So some of the work around capacity building, how do we ensure that the labor force who are already engaged in repairing those pumps can be used in repairing solar pumps? So the capacity angle is very important. On the finance part, obviously in Nepal, the good thing that happened was a lot of the municipalities used their own funds to fund these solar pumps, but that's not necessarily what's happening in the region. The farmers at the end of the day are having to pay astronomical sums for installing solar pumps when the climate change problem was not their own making. The final point I want to make in this is the absolute importance of just transition. Justice has to be at the heart of this energy transition that we are talking about. Those who have contributed the least must not be the ones who are at the receiving end. So there are some of the work that we have done in the hydropower, and Nepal again has excellent examples of benefit sharing. We did a study at EC Mode looking at the benefit sharing in hydropower across the whole Hindu Kush Himalayas, and actually Nepal came out with some of the strongest examples. There are examples of royalty sharing with the rural communities. There are examples of equity where a rural community actually got a share in the hydropower. So that are some of the really good examples of how you can incorporate communities in this just transition. So I would like to finish my intervention for this round by talking about the importance again of means of implementation, finance, capacity building, and technology transfer, and keep the communities at the heart of this energy transition. It's not about technology alone. It's about how the communities interact with those renewable technologies and how they are benefiting. So back to you, Dr. Dhakal.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee. I think that's very, very important. I think what we do, why we develop energy is for humans, is for us, for the community. So I think that those are very, very important aspects. I am realizing that I'm not that great moderator in terms of time, as I'm looking at the screen that 25 minutes have left, and I think the beautiful lady on the blue sari is already indicating me that I have 25 minutes left. So I think I'll come back to the panelists again. but I don't want you to forget our audience. So before I come to the second round from the panelists, I want to take one or two questions on the floor. Then I think I'll come back to the three questions back to our panelists. The first is a bit of a financing issue. From clean energy, second is on maybe role for private sector, and the other is international cooperation. So 3 points I want to come back in the next round, but before that, we wouldn't want to run over time, so I want to take few interventions from the floor. I already see Honorable Member of Parliament, please. Yes. Can we have a microphone?
Good morning. Namaste to all of you. It's a very good time listening to you and gaining more and more knowledge, insights from you. Nepal aims to achieve 100% renewable energy by 2050. And the current yesterday, the new NDC 3 also declared that in 2030, we will have 14,031 megawatt. And by 2045, we'll have 28,500 megawatt production of hydropower in Nepal. And also it mentioned that industry will be transformed. There will be transformative change in the industries by giving more and more electricity. That means in future, Nepal's industries will be converted to electrified industry. So it looks like an ambitious dream, but we also need support from internationally to support Nepal to bring it into the mainstream to accomplish our ambitious dream. It will help also not only Nepal, for all over the countries in the world, and it needs a bit transition period, as Dr. Aditi also mentioned. Just transition is very necessary. And we need for that finance, which is very lacked in our country. And also our needs to be achieved, our SDGs goals like 8, 9, 10, 11 is completely mentioned about economic growth. So we have to electrify, we have to accelerate our economic growth, which is very must for Nepal, and we lacked industries development in Nepal. And also SDG 11 mentioned here, reduce inequalities. So how to reduce inequalities? So this, I would like to mention here that transition period is need for Nepal, because developed countries are already developed by industry. So Nepal, we need to have improvement in our industry development. So we need more transition period while we are looking forward for future totally 100% renewable energy in 2050. So as I listened to as I listened to Mr. Hitendra, he mentioned here about storage. So I would like to ask here that what are the most promising sources of clean energy today? I believe solar and wind came into the first, and then hydro, because there are some little bit problem in the river side with the hydro. But which one will be the more reliable for all, possible for all? And the main point that I would like to listen to you in the bullet point answers, that what policies and role does industry, what policies and role does energy storage play in clean energy adoption? That if we can put storage of energy, then we can share it to regional level and Asia Pacific cooperation as well, because as I am member of Standing Committee on Sustainable Development of Interparliamentary Union, so we can put forward these messages there also. So I would like to listen to you, your key point notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll take a few questions, then we'll come back. I'll try to balance. Okay, I'll take one from here. So yes, please. May I request to make your interventions very short? We have only 20 minutes left total.
My question is you talked about regulatory roadblocks, and we also know that Nepal is prepared. My question is for Mr. Hatindra Dev. You talked about regulatory roadblocks, and we also know that Nepal has committed to become carbon neutral by 2045. So I'd like to know from you, what are these key roadblocks that you face, and why would the government place roadblocks in its own commitment towards moving to keep its commitment to the NDC?
Thank you so much. So I'll take one from the extreme. I'm trying to do a geographical balance here. So we have a colleague there on the corner. So may I invite your very short interventions?
So, thank you so much. That was brilliant. My name is Niklas Hellström. I've been associated with colleagues from LDCs in Africa on a couple of initiatives led by Yuba Sokona, the former vice chair of IPCC, and others. And it really has been working around the idea of South-South collaboration, of seeing the way forward for Nepal and many other countries to come together and under the purview of this work, an LDC Renewable Energy Initiative was formed some years ago that I invite you to explore and take a look at. And we've also done some work on just transition in Africa. And I think that the key point here is really to say, as you said here too, there is a scope for a really radically different model of energy. And it can really cater to well-being, of course, and a mushrooming of bottom-up initiatives that interconnect and have also diversified ownership, and driven by public interest. So there's a lot of very important things here. But one thing that also was said already in the panel, seeing energy not just as a lever for climate, of course, and development, but also as a way to break dependencies and trade, deficits and so on. So the idea of actually having a long-term planning horizon to 100% renewable energy that caters to all the needs, a quadruple of demand or whatever, but also to create the conditions for manufacturing and controlling the technologies in the South. But that can't be done country by country. It needs South-South collaboration. So I'd be keen to hear reflections from the great panel on the scope for really forward-looking, assertive South-South collaboration, especially in this very fraught geopolitical context we're in now. And many countries in the global South sit on all the resources, the critical minerals, the sun, the wind. So there's immense scope for that.
Thank you, Nicholas. I think we'll come back to that question of international cooperation, South-South cooperation, LDC support. Maybe I hope that we can take it. So maybe I'll take one question from the center. So, okay.
Hi, my name is Navoch. I have a very simple question. Nepal seems to be at a very interesting place, given that there is clean water, there is biomass, there is a lot of sporadic but yet availability of wind, good quality wind that is available, sporadic but available still, and solar. Have you thought about hydrogen? And is this something that has been thought about? Is there some work that has happened there? Because it solves the problem of storage. It solves the problem of clean, green. It also solves the problem of being able to not do any other interventions beyond what is already happening and yet make energy happen.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I want to come back to our panelists. Before I come back to the panelists, I'm a little bit biased being an IPCC author for several cycles. So I see Mr. Abdullah Moqsit. Do you want to say a word about IPCC and clean energy? Any 1 minute in the microphone is behind you.
Thank you very much, Professor, but I was not prepared to be frank. This is second time. But let me highlight something which is really important for IPCC, and I think ADC made it clear, because IPCC is not doing research. IPCC is assessing research. And IPCC working with cycle. That means our are coming for 6th cycle, because now we are starting 7th cycle. But I really liked your intervention all, but also the one from ADC, that I think sixth cycle of IPCC was a cycle-oriented, solution-oriented. And any information, any option provided by IPCC in sixth cycle give a set of solution to any country, anywhere in the world to be implemented. But IPCC is not dictating. IPCC is proposing. And it is for the country, for the local region to adopt the solution in their context. And what was proposed here in Nepal, I want to highlight what you said. We have many success stories here. And we have a test bed of solutions that can be shared everywhere in the world. Thank you very much. And thank you to catch me once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I would like now come back to our panelists. We have 15 minutes. So I would like to hear your view on, I think what we said is that clean energy is very important. It has multiple dimensions. We need to do a lot of things. But also I heard you saying that small incremental changes are not enough for us because our requirements are much bigger, our aspirations are much bigger. So we need to have transformative change. Incremental change is not enough. So now in order to have that transformative change, what are the most important elements that you see for that scaling up transformative change? Just one or two, just maybe one or maximum 2 points very quickly from the dimensions that you have addressed in your first cycle of talk. So maybe again I'll start from this side. Maybe Mr. Hitenderji. Yeah.
So should I answer the questions or?
Yeah. So I think there are also 3 questions, especially role of hydrogen, and also regulatory roadblocks and the storage. So yeah, you may also answer that.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Suvakar. You mentioned transformative big changes, but I'm a believer of small things. Small is beautiful, and that's where I was proposing the pellets machines and converting electric to electric vehicles and pump storage in place of reservoir storages. So they are all, attacking the small, and that will go on to make a big change. So having said that, and answering the question from Honourable Member of Parliament about the storage facilities and facilitating the industry's electrification, again, I think the solution is not big storage projects. It is an ongoing project. Each storage project takes, in our experience, more than 15 years. And we have only one project is under construction, Tanahu, and all others are in the drawing board. So I don't know when these storage projects are going to come. I can't wait for them. So what is my solution? My solution is pump storage project and battery storage. So we have already proposed to the government, it is in the budget declaration, that there will be battery storages, and NEA is also going to take loans for battery storage in the industrial cities, 100 megawatt hour battery storage in each of those cities. So that is the solution. And to electrify the industries, they need reliable energy, reliable electricity. Yesterday, very sorry to say, we had an interruption many times in the evening because we have a very weak link. One link goes and the system goes. So that means the transmission network is very weak. So there also we are looking for private sector involvement, and the question of regulatory change is required here, and how to involve the private sector in the transmission network. Because we have a lack of finance, NEA is facing that lack of finance issue, so involving private sector. So we need transmission charges, wheeling charges, regulations for that, open access regulation, all these things are required. Yes, the government is trying right now, they are in the right track, but it's still lacking right now. And in the trade sector also, the private sector coming in the power trade, especially will help dealing with our large neighbor India. So the private sector to private sector is all, is no big neighbor, small neighbor. It's private business to private business. So I believe it helps in improving the trade environment. And Yeah, in the transport also we need a lot of regulatory breakthroughs, as I said earlier. So all these small things go on to make a big change, I think.
I definitely agree with you that the small things doesn't mean that it can't be, it's not incremental. Basically, small things really makes a big effect. Thank you. I'll come to Professor Lorenzo.
May I add a couple of remarks
Yes,
based on
please.
the same question,
Yeah,
basically,
please.
because it was also mentioned the importance of the just transition. And some lessons that we have learned, for example, in stimulating the win-win situation with the solar panels to avoid the not in my backyard mentality are very, very important and can be functional, but we always have to think also with the subsidies, for example, for electric vehicles, that usually this kind of measure will first and foremost benefit some group of society. So it's very important in thinking when designing these kind of schemes, also some kind of public funds, for example, a part of the revenue that could come from selling the solar energy to the grid should actually be put on a public fund to also help those group of society which are not able to benefit from the first movers benefits that will be given to incentivize renewable energy vehicles or the further development of a renewable system. And so to avoid what we are now experiencing, for example, in the Netherlands, that there is a group of society that feels really left over, and now they are bringing forward concern through representative democracy, therefore voting political parties that are slowing down the move towards a more renewable system altogether. So this element of just transition should be a red line throughout the various regulatory reform and system, and both focusing on financial and more hard law approaches that could help moving up the reforms also more quickly.
Thank you, Professor Lorenzo. I think that also goes back to the question I think some other colleagues also raised about just transition. Professor Wagle.
I think time is running out. I'll touch upon 2 or 3 things. I think key is, of course, money. And how can we source it? So there's no question about that. We may talk anything from clean energy to adaptation to... So we probably need to, even when we talk about South-South cooperation, we probably need to redesign the investment pattern, investment institutions, investment instrument, and prioritizing where we will be investing. I already mentioned about the role of the private sector, maybe the blended finance, public PPP, public-private partnerships, and among the partnership of the local governments in context of Nepal, they are resourceful. One question raised about hydrogen. I belong to Kathmandu University. At the laboratory level, we are generating hydrogen. We are producing hydrogen. We have got the refueling station. We also have got model vehicles. But again, the question of investment comes, and then to scale it up at the commercial level and to take it to the market, one critical aspect that it should be a government policy. They should recognize the research outcome of the academic and research institutions. Also the market potential, the study that has been done. So to translate that hydrogen ambition in Nepal, we need policy. We have drafted one in collaboration with the government, but we need to implement it. One biggest advantage is that we can produce green hydrogen. We are talking about a lot of hydropower production, but exports. But I think if we can use that produced hydropower and use that produced hydropower to produce hydrogen, and instead of exporting electricity directly and export hydrogen, that is more cost efficient, I guess, and even for the private sector, it could be more profit oriented, profit making proposition. Thank you. I'll stop here.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Wagle. Definitely, hydrogen is of interest. I think especially for some hard-to-abate sectors in industry. So a lot of potential could be there. I'm very happy to hear that Kathmandu University is doing a lot of technical studies around it. Dr. Mukherjee.
Yes. I want to come back to the issue of South-South collaboration, and actually on the overall issue of collaboration. Paris Agreement is very clear that the responsibility, the CBDR is enshrined principle. So there is a responsibility of the countries that have caused climate change to actually help the countries which haven't caused climate change to transition to clean energy. I think we need to hold that commitment, that accountability has to be there. But then also there is something to be said about regional cooperation. I remember, and there's lots of studies being done, our region happens to be the least integrated in terms of market integration, in terms of all kinds of integration, right? I mean, South Africa, Europe, all of them have countrywide transboundary grids. And here I think a lot of the studies are showing that there is a lot of complementarity, both in terms of timing of demand for electricity, production, as well as the energy mix. So I remember ADB used to have a proposal, maybe it's some form of working of BBIN, connecting the 4 countries, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, through these grids. So I think I just want to emphasize international collaboration that is holding those accountable, and also the huge potential that our region has, and for all kinds of geopolitical reasons we are not able to harness those potential. So, and obviously with those kind of collaboration also comes a lot of technical expertise. For example, in the agri-food sector that I talked about, India currently has over 300,000 solar irrigation pumps across the country. I mean, of course, we have around 20 million irrigation pumps, of which only 300,000 are solarized, but lots of lessons from what works. Like standalone solar pumps don't work. They only work if they are grid connected and farmers can actually earn money by selling electricity to the grid. So those kind of technical lessons can also be learned, and therefore the role of research, as Professor you were saying, that how do those research findings come into the policy making?
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee. In next few minutes, I could not let go our keynote speaker. Usually we don't ask question to keynote speaker, but there is a lot of question about money. You know, when I look at our NDC 3.0 unveiled 2 days back, I have a number that Nepal is looking for 73.74 billion US dollar between 2025 and 2035. That means on average that comes up to about $7 billion a year to implement NDC. And more interesting, out of that $73.74 billion, $65 billion is needed in energy sector. So do you have a solution how Nepal can get that money?
Brilliant. One solution is ready, perhaps not for all the money that is needed, but yesterday also I had the pleasure to meet the minister. We have this ETAF platform that is working. So my call to you, and as I did yesterday with the minister, present project to us, and we will try to facilitate the funding. It could be private or public projects, partnership between private and public, but we are really ready to support this initiative. One thing that I wish to say in 1 minute, one that you have called to the Secretary of IPPC, when we talk about the triple renewable energy, the 11.2 terawatts by 2030, it's just the translation that we did the arena with our modeling on the call of the IPCC to keep to reduce the 43% reduction of CO2 emission by 2030. So just to make clear that all our numbers are just a translation in measurable targets of what the IPCC provides us as a science.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lacamera. Thank you very much. So we are at the end of our session. I think I'll not dare to summarize such a rich discussion. I think the clean energy is very, very fundamental, not globally, but for Nepal also. And I think we heard about the different technological aspect, capacity building aspect, financing aspect, community aspect, benefit sharing aspect, and I think our aspiration to lead global clean energy drive, and also in Nepal, I think we need to do a lot of things together through the international cooperation, financing, technology transfer. Some of the international initiatives are very important for Nepal and this region, and definitely we have to do on our own in our countries also. I think with that, I think I'd like to end the session and return the session back to you.